Welcome to the 2014 Tewaaraton Awards ceremony here in Washington, D.C. at the National Museum of the American Indian. Richie Meade, Furman University coach, U.S. team coach, and former Navy coach, here to present the 2014 Tewaaraton Spirit Award to Brendan Looney, in honor of Brendan Looney. Thank you for being here tonight, Coach.
Thanks, John.
I guess, take us back. You were Brendan's coach at the Naval Academy, when he was there before graduating in 2004. Maybe we'll start at the beginning and kind of your first interaction with Brendan. He picked up the sport a little bit late in sophomore year at Navy. What was kind of your first interaction with him?
Brendan came to us. He had played football. So he came in, he asked if he could come out and play. And we knew he was a phenomenal athlete, but he had very poor skills. He had played baseball in high school. And so, the first thing that we did was interval training. So we got everybody out on the field, and, you went through this actually, or a version of it, and, it was all running. And so he's, basically, we're thinking, hey, this guy's going to be a great guy to have around. He's got a lot of, he's a very good athlete. He works really hard. He's got a lot of personal intensity, and he could be a very good leader. So that's kind of where it all started. Looking back on it, at Navy, you can do these types of things. So Brendan would come to practice, and we'd be doing stick work, and it'd be like, okay, run down to the wall and stay on the wall for like an hour, and then we'll have you come back. And he actually, no problem with that, which is a window into Brendan and his way of doing things. We told him what to do, and he was going to do it because he was a determined guy. And I couldn't believe it. I would say, where's he going? He said, Coach, he's got to go down, for an hour and work on the wall. I said, okay. So that's kind of where it all started. And, he progressed as a lacrosse player to the point where, he was tough in practice, hard guy to practice against. You could see he was starting to formulate the leadership side. I mean, he was I don't say anybody's a natural leader, but if you're attentive to somebody's background, this guy is the oldest son of Kevin and Maureen Looney. He's the older brother of 6 children. The thing that's important, I think, to remember about Brendan, if you look at a Naval Academy graduate or somebody at the Naval Academy, there's basically 6 leadership pillars: competence, character, commitment, courage, and compassion, all right? So if you look at the end product, or what the end product is supposed to be, it's supposed to be a combination of an individual at all those things, right, that can lead people, that can impact people. Brendan's advantage when he came to the Naval Academy in that environment was basically he was used to being the older brother, number one, and number two, his family has a very, very deep faith. And Brendan had a deep faith. So some of the things later on you would hear about him would be when he was training his SEALs, that he was fearless, right? Somebody said to me, he was fearless. And nobody's fearless. Everybody's afraid, all right? The characteristic is the concept of courage, right? To be able to be afraid and still move out and do what you're supposed to do. So he had a tremendous amount of courage, and I think it all goes back to his faith. Okay, he believed in what he was doing. Okay, he also wasn't afraid to do what he was told to accomplish his mission. And you can look back on going to the wall for an hour during practice. Not many kids would do that, but he knew his brothers were coming, and he was going to be there to help them. So he did it.
Yeah, so maybe fast forward a little bit to 2004, Brendan's senior year, younger brothers Steve and Billy both there on the team. You guys obviously make an amazing run to the national championship game. What did Brendan mean to that team in particular as a senior leader, and what he did for you guys?
So everybody knows the story, right? It's like the Cinderella story. Nobody knows nobody knows the journey, right? So at all points, we're coming off a losing season, okay? And we're being questioned, by a lot of people in the lacrosse community, in the Naval Academy, athletic community. And it's all good. We got a great group of seniors. We knew that we were very close the year before. So, what put us over the edge, right? And I'm going to tell you a story and take you back. Every year, our team would have the Turkey Bowl, right, which was an inter squad. All the guys would break up by region, and they'd play a football game on right around Thanksgiving, and I hated it. Okay, I didn't like it. Every year something would happen during the Turkey Bowl, and that's one of the other reason was I would have to just listen to the Long Island guys the week before, be obnoxious Long Island guys, right? So we have the Turkey Bowl. It's unbelievable, very spirited, and everybody agrees. I'm not there, of course, but everybody agrees it was a great event. Guys had a lot of spirit and everything else. So that night, Brendan sends an email to everybody on the team, and he says, you guys played with great emotion, great desire. Everybody hustled. Everybody was very, very competitive, and it was a very competitive event. Why don't you do that every day in practice? Why does coach have to demand you or push you to get that type of intensity and that type of spirit every day in practice? And if you don't go that hard in practice every day, I'm coming after you. Okay? So now, several years later, we developed this team captain leadership training program at the Naval Academy, and it involves 3 basic elements: the concept of loyalty, the concept of standards, and the concept of taking action player against player to maintain standards, right? So every single thing that this program expected of midshipmen, he did. And he not only had the courage to peer challenge his team. As soon as he said that, he put himself in a position to have to do it. And he did it every day. And, guys were afraid of him. I mean, if you were on the field and Brendan Looney was playing against you, it was on. There was no quarter. You knew it, and you had to be at your best to play against them. And that atmosphere permeated our team. And so was it coaching? I don't know if it's coaching. It was, we were organized like we always were. What was the difference? He helped create, or was the architect of the atmosphere that we lived in every day. And every single thing we did as a team that particular year seemed like magic. Everything went right. Nobody got hurt. We traveled well. Everything we asked the team to do, it all went well. Practice was like a joy to be at every single day. And I didn't even know the story I just told you. I didn't know it until about a month ago. John Bersner told me. All right, so there's always something in a team's dynamic, right, that happens intangibly. And I believe after hearing that story, retrospectively looking back, that was a big part of it. It wasn't the only part of it. He wasn't the only guy on the team. He wasn't the only leader. But I believe he created a very good leadership environment that helped the other guys in his class lead.
Brendan, the oldest brother of six in the family, obviously Steve and Billy, teammates that last senior year, 2004, the magical run that you guys had. I know the competitiveness between those guys was off the charts. What can you kind of say about their relationship as brothers that you saw?
So I've been asked many times, what was it like to coach all three of them? And it was basically, this is the way I described the Looney brothers, right? You couldn't hurt Brendan Looney if you hit him with a crowbar. Stephen Looney, you couldn't catch him to hit him with a crowbar. And Billy Looney wouldn't have known you hit him, okay? So that's the way they were. The two younger boys, Stephen and Billy, were immensely talented lacrosse players. Stephen, you've seen him play. He had unbelievable intangibles and instincts on the field. Billy, big, strong, tough guy, not very focused, right? Could go off on a tangent, but very, very competitive. Brendan set the bar. And, you know, the first practice we had when Stephen, Billy, and Brendan were all practicing together, Brendan knocked Billy out. He knocked him unconscious. And we're coming off the field. That wasn't commonplace, right? You don't go through a practice normally have somebody get knocked unconscious, especially a brother by a brother. And so, you know, it's after practice, and this is way before we were overly concerned about, you know, Billy got knocked out, okay. And so I see I'm walking off the field. I said, Brendan, you know, you knocked your brother out. He just looked at me. He goes like, Coach, he needs it. He's soft. Just like that. And it wasn't malicious. He took, it was just like, hey, he needs that. So I'm going to give it to him. Okay? And it was said in a way, John, that was like, he's my brother. And I got to get him ready. Right? And if you think about that story, as I did when Stephen spoke at Brendan's service, he said, Brendan wasn't the big brother to step in and fight your fight. He was the guy that made you ready to take care of yourself. So all this stuff goes back to being the big brother, right? And taking care of everybody and doing it at a sense of love. You know, so when I reflect on him, I mean, believe me, he was a fierce person. When excuse me, when he was on the field, you know, I would explain our team, said everybody else on this team is pretty tough. Brendan Looney is fierce. And that helped him when he moved into Navy Special Warfare, but so did all these other qualities of leadership that he showed as he grew up and as he interacted during that year. And he had a huge part of our success during that year, and I didn't really know it. You know, you know, until all these stories became unfolded behind the scenes, the things that were said, the things that happened, and how much he interacted not just with his brothers, but with his classmates. You know, we had, I think it was 8 seniors on that team that all had their best year, every single one of them, including him. I mean, he played in every game we played. So that would be another reflection on him, you know, the ability to step in and prepare people and get them ready.
And then, you know, fast forward a little bit, Navy SEAL, Bud's training, he's named honor man of that class. I mean, a tremendous, tremendous honor in what is already a tremendous, you know, accomplishment to you know, finish that school. What did that mean? I mean, what was your reaction when you heard that and found out that he had finished the top of one of the world's most elite classes?
He's Brendan Looney. You know, the backstory of that was he was disqualified from going combat arms coming out of the academy because he was colorblind. And he was one of the first guys they let into SEAL training with that affliction. And the reason is he was commissioned as an intelligence officer. And his first deployment to Iraq was with a SEAL unit, with Special Forces unit. And he knew that he wanted to go SEALs. And at the time, there was another ex-Navy lacrosse player in the SEAL community that was managing the community. And so, Brendan said, Coach, I want to try to cross-transfer, be a SEAL. So I said, well, why don't you use this deployment as a tryout? You're going to be doing, they're going to be doing physical things, they're going to be doing PT. I said, Brendan, crush them. You're capable, you're a great athlete, you can do whatever they do. When he went to Buds, it was like he was a first-round draft pick, and he was sent there by the enlisted guys. I talked to some of the guys that were with him. He didn't even struggle. And a lot of it is, mental and physical toughness. At the end of Bud's training, on that Friday, they make you stay there medically in case something has happened. And Brendan was like, can I leave now? So being named the honor man of a SEAL class is obviously a great honor and an accomplishment, and your reputation in the community starts with that, right? So the first thing you start your reputation as soon as you get there, and if you're named honor man coming out of a SEAL class, then coming into the community, obviously, the responsibility for you to achieve is pretty high.
We're here tonight to honor Brendan with the 2014 Spirit of Tewaaraton Award. Brendan embodying the sport, doing it the right way, the leadership that he showed. I mean, what does that kind of mean to you that he's receiving this award?
Well, I think it's appropriate. I think familiarity sometimes, when you talk to people about the intangible things of leadership and performance, people don't get it, right? They just, it's an intangible thing. They don't grasp it. They don't understand it. This guy was a guy that kids should know about and look up to. He's not the only guy. There's other guys in the sport of lacrosse. But this guy, Brendan, was very, very special from the standpoint of he embodied everything that a great leader, the qualities a great leader has, but also he embodied the things a great follower has to have. He had determination. I'm not going to say he was fearless, but he was unafraid to try. He was unafraid to fail. And I believe that kids should understand that. He wasn't the best at what he did on the lacrosse field, but his brothers were great, great lacrosse players because he was their brother. If he's not their brother, I don't know if the drive and commitment is there, right? I don't know if there's somebody looking over you, having high expectations for you is there, right? And so he was an individual that went beyond what you expect. Okay, there's Bridget Looney was going out on a date. It's another famous story, in the Looney lore. And it was this guy is going out, coming to pick up Bridget Looney at the Looney house in Silver Spring. And the boys, Billy and Steven, are talking about this. They're going, we know this guy, Coach, we checked him out, he's okay. And Brendan's not saying anything, That night, he, puts his midshipman uniform on, goes in his car, drives the hour to Silver Spring, Maryland. He's sitting in a living room when this guy walks in. And, the story is Mr. and Mrs. Looney say hello. Brendan just goes, how many push-ups can you do? I mean, that's just the kind of guy, he was going to be there to meet the guy that took out his little sister. Okay, he wasn't going to talk to somebody else. He was going to meet the guy, all right? So if you follow that logic, the night they went on the mission, okay, Alpha Platoon SEAL Team 4 is going on a mission commanded by Andrew Dow, the captain of the 2007 team, who was a freshman when Brendan was a senior. And Brendan's being relieved. His company, his SEAL platoon, has been on a 4-month deployment. They've been in several firefights. He has won the Bronze Star, and they're going home either the next day or the day after. All right? This was supposed to be a fairly benign thing, but Andrew Dow is going on his first mission. He's one of Brendan's guys. Based on everything I've told you, what's he going to do? It's the same principle. He's going to take care of Andrew Dow because he's the big brother, and that's what he does. So instead of wishing him well and patting him on the back, he gets on a helicopter with him to make sure the mission goes okay. And obviously there's a terrible accident. But that's who he was. He wasn't not going to do that. And you can look back on his entire life retrospectively, and I didn't teach him that. I don't even think the Naval Academy taught him that. The Naval Academy put the ducks in order, but that's how he lived his life. So, in my view, the value of this award is that young kids that are trying to play this game in athletics can learn something about how to act as individuals, and more importantly, how to become leaders, and what a leader actually looks like. So I'm, very thankful to the Tawaratan Foundation for recognizing Brendan, and very humbled to be asked to present this award to his family.
The Looney family, obviously, very large, very close-knit, competitive with each other, very, athletic. The Looney family will be here tonight to accept this award on Brendan's behalf. What do you think it means to them to receive this in honor of Brendan?
I think one of the most important things, nothing is going to fix this, right? I mean, but one of the great concerns I think that happens, especially when individuals are taken early in their lives, is that they're remembered. So I think this, getting this award in Brendan's name is going to maybe comfort the family that Brendan's going to be remembered. And hopefully Brendan will be remembered for who he really was. He was a very good leader. He was a great teammate, a great friend. And it'll also be remembered because a lot of his teammates and classmates are going to be here tonight. And I think it's going to be a happy night. It's going to be a happy occasion. That group, his group of guys, when they got together, they had fun. And they're going to have fun because he would want them to have fun. And, I just hope that people really get it. I hope that they listen to the stories and understand who this individual was, how he lived his life, and what he believed in. And I think if that all happens, that will be very meaningful to the family. And that'll be a great service the Tawaratan Foundation does to the sport of lacrosse, in my view.
Well, again, a tremendous honor for, very well deserved for Brendan. We really are honored to have you here to present the award to Brendan's family, and again, the 2014 Spirit of Tewaaraton winner, Brendan Looney. We appreciate it, Coach Richie Meade.
Thanks, John.
Thanks very
Appreciate
much.
you guys. Thank you.